Yeah. But I mean, this is the first one of the new year, the first one of 2019.
You're the only one of us who has energy, Adam.
Yeah, that's because I'm hungry.
He always has energy.
I know, that's what I mean.
Why is that?
He's just...
I don't know. I usually attribute it to the fact that my dad was in the military and would like just get me up in the morning, you know, and like, hey, here we go. This is how we do it. I don't know.
My dad had
I just got used to just like waking up and just being ready.
My dad had me trained the same way for the longest time. To this day, if I'm napping and my dad's like, Elena, get up. I'm like, yes, I'm awake.
Attend hut.
I'm not actually awake, but I'm on my feet.
Get up, soldier.
Yeah. On your feet, soldier.
Rounds inbound.
What?
We are under
What's
fire.
inbound? What do you say?
Rounds.
General quarters.
Rounds inbound.
That's a Navy, but we're saying it anyway.
Yep, pretty much.
Are we live?
It looks like it.
Okay,
I don't know.
great. They got to see that whole
Everybody
thing.
get up.
I think YouTube.
Man, your parents would just wake you up just to like, damn, military brats. That's just horrible.
I wasn't even.
Horrible.
My dad's former
I
military.
slept till 10:47 yesterday. So.
I slept till noon the other day.
Nice.
Sorry, everybody. It's a low energy full nerd. One, because it's Monday. Two, Elena's in Germany.
Yes,
I am
my
like I am tired from CES. Brad, of course, is tired from reviewing all of the hardware. GTX 2060 have a hard RTX 2060. Got that right. Adam is always has energy because he's a military brat.
It's fake. It's fake energy.
Fake energy.
Get up, soldier. Dad, I want to go to soccer today. Really?
Man, we got a lot of people already coming in. We got
Damn,
Rusty.
it's gonna be a hell.
We got
As much as
Jose, we got Cesar.
give the shout outs, but man, it's gonna be, there's so much to talk about.
There is
So
too much to talk about. We even got Kuma over. And then there's some people in the chat saying happy 6th to Brad.
Thank you.
So,
Today's my anniversary working here.
Oh.
Nice.
I thought it was like 6 years married. But
Yeah, I was
no,
like,
wow,
I don't know.
I
I've been
had
married for
my
a long
3-year anniversary this month too.
They hire everybody after CES.
I think so.
That was specifically mine. They're like, we want to hire you, but we're not going to do it until the middle of next month because we don't want to bother having to train you.
Mac Drew's here. We got everybody, Gordon. Let's
we got good stuff here. We of course have
we got lots of good stuff.
final word on RTX, and I wrote it wrong even in the show notes. I wrote GTX because it was hard for me to do that. RTX 2060, a card that is not underwhelming, and a CES reference.
Yeah.
3rd Gen Ryzen, not Ryzen 3 as everybody keeps calling it. 3rd Gen Ryzen. Zen 2, 3rd Gen Ryzen 3000. And
That's on AMD.
Next year.
That's on AMD. And CES, all kinds of crap. Notebook stuff, a lot of laptop stuff we're talking about. A lot of
laptops. Man.
There's Radeon.
Some
AMD
audio.
trolling us right in
Some
our face.
fun audio
The
stuff.
Radeon.
Some good stuff from what I've
There's
seen.
just everything. Everything.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
So much to pack.
Oh, and Jensen. That's always fun to talk about. We should roll that in there too.
Yeah, let's do it.
See what we can do in an hour and 3 minutes.
Yep. Cool. Gordon, when you're ready.
In this episode of The Full Nerd, RTX 2060. Oh, damn it. What the hell is I don't even care. We're just going to do it. I'm not going to say, I was going to say something clever. I got nothing clever to say.
Forget about clever.
Nothing left. In this episode of the...
Started out so strong.
I know, because I used all my energy. That's just like, oh my God, that's like the Eagles. That's like the Eagles. Bears. That's just, man, that's just
American
not
football
right.
reference.
That is just not right. That's like, let the dude kick the ball.
Yeah. All right, do it.
All right. In this episode of The Full Nerd, RTX 2060 review, 3rd Gen Ryzen is almost here, and CES. Best of. And laptops from CES.
And stuff.
Sound cards. Everything else. Systems.
Mac True says Gordon's going to spill the beans on the 8 and 16 core Ryzen Gen 3.
Oh, yeah. No one knows. No one knows. Welcome to The Full Nerd, episode 81. I'm your host, Gordon Maung. Had to look and read my name because I'm so tired from CES with co-host Brad Charkis.
Hello.
Elena Yee, freshly
Really?
back from Germany.
81?
I think it's 81.
Dang.
I just notched it up. I could be wrong. So.
2019. Hi, everybody.
And Patrick Murray will let us know if we're right. And controlling the vertical and horizontal. Wait, where is he?
There he is.
Oh, yeah, he's tired. He's
sleeping.
not. He's faking.
Shh.
Adam is never tired.
Don't wake the Adam.
Yeah. No.
What? I'm here. CS is over. I did it.
He
I
could
made
be
it.
just bored
We
of
did
our
it.
conversation.
Here we go. Yeah, I'm ready. Let's talk about it. You guys ready?
It's like a switch. It's like a switch, just on and off.
He's actually a robot.
Honestly, I am still recovering. It was I didn't party as hard as Gordon did, but CS was there was a lot. There was a lot.
Yeah.
But even before that, Brad had to deal with a lot.
Yes.
Yes.
RTX.
After the break.
Ray tracing for the masses, Brad? Is it really here? Is it really ray tracing for the masses?
It is, and I got it the day after Christmas. Actually, I got it early. So yeah, the RTX 2060, GeForce RTX 2060 is here. Has ray tracing cores, has tensor cores. It's awfully close to the RTX 2070 in counts. Actually, I think it's missing 6 RT cores, so it has 30 instead of 36. So it's like the majority of the way up there to the RTX 2070 as far as those next gen features are concerned. $350. And it kicks butt at both 1440p gaming and 1080p gaming.
Is it actually 350? Because I mean, we've had this weird funniness where it's like, oh, it's 350, and then everywhere was 450 and up for other card launches.
Well, it hits the streets tomorrow, so we'll know soon. But yes, at least the Nvidia Founders Edition, and Nvidia said other cards as well. They say the MSRP is $350, and the Nvidia's Founders Edition, unlike the other ones in the RTX family, sticks to stock reference specs, so it's not overclocked. It's nothing like that. $350, nice design, etc., etc. It kicks all kinds of butt at 1440p gaming. So if you got a 1440p monitor, I would say definitely consider this card. There's a couple questionable decisions. One, it only has 6 gigabytes of memory, which for a 1440p card is like, is that really future proof? So I asked Nvidia about it, and they said, well, we made that decision because we wanted to give it the much, much faster GDDR6 that just came out, because last gen's 1060 has the much, much slower GDDR5. So they said we made the choice to, rather than putting 8 gigabytes of, this memory that's like half the speed of GDDR6, we'd only put 6 in there.
And how much RAM is in the 2070? I forgot.
8 gigs.
2070 is 8.
8 gigs.
8.
Oh, okay.
Yep, so this is a great 1440p card. It's a outstanding 1080p card if you got an ultra, high refresh rate monitor. Nvidia's stuff keeps pitching it against the 1060, obviously, 2060, 1060. And versus the 1060, it's about, 50 to 60% faster in games, which is a big step up. But the 6 gigabyte 1060 costs $260. This costs $350, so it's really more comparable to a GTX 1070.
You mean actual launch price of 1060 or current street price? Okay.
Yeah, actual launch price. I was comparing launch price versus launch price.
But Founders Edition wasn't 260, was it? I thought it was higher for the Founders Edition version.
For the 1060?
No.
1060?
I'm not sure about for the 1060.
Yeah, because I thought in our NVIDIA interview at CES, they said it launched at 3.
Yeah, the Founders Edition might have launched at 3.
Yeah, Founders Edition was 3.
260 was the MSRP for the 1060 at the time.
Got it.
Like, so they're like, this is a $260 card, but ours costs more. That's what NVIDIA does.
Okay, but if it actually, I guess it's fair to them if RTX 2060 actually comes out and launches at 350 instead of 400, then that's probably a lot closer than.
Well, if you go and buy it through NVIDIA's site, NVIDIA doesn't mark up their Founders Edition cards, so it's going to cost $350 there.
Okay.
So at $350, that's comparable to roughly the price of the GTX 1070 when that came out 2.5 years ago. And this is a much better card than that. It's a little bit faster than the 1070 Ti, actually, which was a $450 card when it launched a year ago. But one kind of bummer is that if you're looking at price points, at $350, the RTX 2060 is only 10 to 20% faster, depending on the game and workload, than the older GTX 1070. So it is better, but it's not that astronomical leap that you would normally hope to see out of the 70 class parts.
Right.
But it can do ray tracing and DSL,
It can do ray tracing.
and
DLSS in each of those one games that those are supported in.
For now. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think this is definitely, if you're going to buy a 1440p graphics card, this is the one you want to buy right now.
Nice.
The 6 gigabytes kind of makes me go, but it is GDDR6. I think it's a great card. There's no reason to buy a Vega over this. Originally, my original review, I had to go back and edit it the day that the review ran because I originally said the only reason to buy a Vega is if you want to pair it with the FreeSync monitor. But at CES, Nvidia announced that these cards now support FreeSync. So
I forgot all
really
about
no
that.
reason to buy a Vega right now.
There was so much that happened. I forgot.
Yeah. I mean, talking about the last week, it feels like the entire world has changed, right?
I totally forgot that happened.
So much happened last week.
Wow.
So yeah, there's no reason to buy a Vega. If you only have a 1080p 60 monitor, I would still say get a GTX 1060 or a Radeon RX 580 or 590 instead of this. But this is a really good card.
At 1440, it's the one. It's hard to beat. So Vega 64, 56, not competitive in price, I guess, or performance.
It's the whole package.
Okay.
It's so much hotter. It's so much more power. It's this card is faster than Vega 56. It's just slightly behind Vega 64. So it has RTX technology in it, and it's cheaper. So it's just the whole package. This is, I was hoping to see the 70 class push forward more in performance for a new generation, but this is still nonetheless easily the best 1440p graphics card you could buy right now.
Okay. Is there any reason to pony up for a 2070 then? Because it sounds like this kind of really puts a dent in the 2070.
Yeah, it does. If you overclock this too, you can get it up near 2070 levels of performance. Pardon me. The biggest one for me would be if you're worried about that 6 gigabytes of memory. If you're worried that that's not future-proof enough, it might be worth stepping up to the 8 gigabytes. I probably wouldn't. That's a $150 difference. So,
And actually, I'm wondering, because I haven't paid attention to pricing, has 2070, 2080 and Ti's come down? Because there was that theory that once all the older cards were sort of sold off, that
2070 and 2080 are more reasonable. It's still really hard to find 2080 Ti at reasonable prices if you can find them. So the further you go down the stack, the closer you're getting to actually paying what you're supposed to be paying for.
which is still high though. But I kind of wonder if 2070 has come down to, it's still a $500 video card, I guess, for the most part.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. But these days, Nvidia is bundling a free game with it. Yeah, they're bundling the free game. You can sometimes find them for $20 or $30 cheaper on sale. So,
how's the ray tracing performance? Do you get a chance to kick the tires now?
I have not had a chance to do ray tracing on the GTX or RTX 2060 yet. So I'm not sure. It should be pretty close to what you could get with the 2070. Nvidia said, I got Nvidia's. I quoted them if I could find it. Yeah. They said it should be fine at 1080p 60.
Yeah, and I know that during his keynote, Jensen showed off a bunch of benchmarks. It said pretty much 60 frames a second. I think it was a 1080p Battlefield 5, right? So,
well, and then he showed the whole RTX on, and then RTX with DLSS on. What was the little noise he made? The whoop, where it went back up.
Because once you turn on DLSS, it did make a significant increase in performance on Battlefield 5. So
back to where it was before RTX was on.
See it.
Yeah,
we'll have to see that. That patch is gonna come out. At this point, they're claiming that's gonna happen. But I just pulled it up. Nvidia says the RTX 2060 can nearly hit 60 frames per second at 1080p, everything ultra. And by nearly, I remember the chart from the reviewer's guide. It was like 57 frames per second. Like it was 60 frames per second for all intents and purposes. And if you drop the ray tracing down to medium, it easily surpasses 60 frames per second.
So Varun Kumar, sorry, new year, same old Adam. He's saying that the RTX 2060 is worse, but why are people loving it? It's very less compared to the last generation. And Kyrie also chimes in and says that we love it because we're NVIDIA shills.
Oh, that's
of course.
Yes, of course.
Yep.
They're paying for my coffee right now.
Sure.
So what do you think? I mean, we're still paying more for what we got last generation. right?
Well,
I mean,
I think the problem is at this point. At first, they launched all this stuff, and I'm like, what the hell are they doing? You know, making 2080 cost as much as a 1080 Ti. As time goes on, I'm really getting the feeling like they just really messed up the naming schemes. They shouldn't have bumped everything up a tier like they did. I think that's a lot of the reason for the pain. Because when you hear 2060, you picture mainstream price 1080p good graphics card.
Yeah.
But that's not what this is. This is $350. This is a 70 class card for all intents and purposes. So if we had that, mindset in our head, I think it would be less painful to talk about the pricing. Although it's still, like I said, generation to generation, not a terribly tremendous jump in performance, but Nvidia made that choice in order to work in all this RTX stuff.
Yeah, and I think we've talked about in the past too, where people's perception of what you got was sort of, the last generation cards were just phenomenal, but they really got that benefit, right, of that process change. There was a huge jump from 28 to 15 or 14 or wherever it is, and
14 and 16.
Yeah, 14, 16, and this is just simply 14 to 14 or 16, wherever the hell, I can't remember. I don't remember whose fab they're using, but it's not going to be, once we get to 7 nanometer, I think, we may see that kind of jump that people were expecting.
Hopefully.
you mean the world's first 7 nanometer GPU?
World's first 7 nanometer GPU, although it's not here. Should we roll that in now? Or still, or what's so the final word?
Yeah, final word on this.
If you had $350, Brad, what would you buy?
1080 Ti.
Okay.
Buy this.
For
Like I
1440p.
I agree with people who say, hey, man, it kind of stinks that compared to the GTX 1070, which is what it's really competing against last gen, it's only up to about 20% improvement. But it's still, nonetheless, if you need to go buy a graphics card for $350 right now, this is the one that you want.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
that was Sunday at CES.
oh my God. Last Sunday.
Right, when the Nvidia announcement was, and then we had to wait all the way till Wednesday to hear about 3rd Gen Ryzen, right?
Yes, that's the other big topic.
It's one of the last things to hit.
I think that was one of the highlights. Definitely, it's so funny because it was even hard to remember that 2060 launched there. And we'll talk a little bit later about RTX laptops too, and that launched there too. But I think the thing that kind of really got everybody excited was 3rd Gen Ryzen. Zen 2 3rd Gen Ryzen. 3rd Gen Ryzen using 2nd Gen Zen 2 cores. Is that right?
I'll tell you what, though. I think AMD, I think Lisa Su and them really knocked it out of the park with the presentation. They're like, oh, the first 7 nanometer GPU, the first 7 nanometer CPU, et cetera, et cetera. Great. But at the same time, I kind of felt a little bit underwhelmed because it seemed like a lot of this stuff, aside from Radeon 7, is all just like, yeah, we have this sometime in the future. No real hard details. Here's a quick demo. So it was like, yeah, you're kicking butt. This is a great presentation, but I'm still left a little bit wanting at the end.
Intel kind of did that same thing too, right? Where they're like, hey, Sunny Cove. But
they showed off Sunny Cove.
Anything.
No performance. I fully expected Sunny Cove performance, but I guess they're not ready there yet.
They gave us a date, or
they give us
time frame.
It's holiday, right? That was actually a big deal. We'll have Sunny Cove by the end of the year. But I think for AMD, I definitely heard a lot of people express disappointment. Some of it I think is uncalled for, frankly. But, I think people wanted to see 16 cores, which they didn't. So the big news is 8-core Ryzen, 3rd Gen Ryzen, performing on par with the 9900K,
right?
Which is insane if you think about it, because 900K is a good part. All core Cinebench.
Yeah. Right.
So.
But they left a lot of room for speculation.
Yeah.
They did. Sorry, go ahead, Brad.
Not only was it performing on par with the 9900K, it was significantly lower power draw. I forget the numbers, but it was massively lower power draw. So, it could be even faster. They got room to play with that stuff. It wasn't finalized clock speeds.
Right. No, and that's what I really think. I think people took this as the final parts and final clocks. And I don't think it is. I think they sort of did this originally when they originally showed off Zen at IDF several years ago, 3 years ago. My God, it seems like a short time ago.
While.
They just showed hey, we can match them one for one with Broadwell, X amount of cores, and obviously when they came out, they were doing great. And I think here, 7 nanometer versus Intel's 14+++, they're going to be in a good situation to have either higher clocks, and probably for the first time in AMD in Ryzen's history, they'll have higher single-threaded clocks, or at least on par.
Yeah.
At a minimum, I think.
Was it one of the interviews that she did, like the roundtables, where Lisa Su was talking about this, where nothing's final, they're still fine-tuning it, and they have they said that sometime in the first half of this year is the expected launch time. So let's say in theory they push all the way to the end, which is Computex. Yeah. So that's a lot of time for them to
mid-year, I think, is the official.
Mid-year, okay.
Yeah.
So then, that's Computex or whatever.
Right.
That's a lot of time for them to tune.
Yeah, and then a lot of time to keep Intel guessing, right? They want to keep Intel.
And she did mention, I think, in that roundtable that she didn't say anything specific, I think, because the PR person was standing right by her. But she did talk about IPC, single core performance, all that stuff.
Yeah, they clearly, they're all smiles. Everybody you see at AMD, they're just smiling everywhere. It's always the same, that body language they have. We're gonna rock Intel's world, I think.
She was wearing a leather jacket, so to me that's a sign of confidence.
Was she?
There's a lot of people took that as a shot at Jensen, though, honestly, because Jensen's signature jacket has been a leather jacket.
I didn't notice that.
That's the first thing I saw. I was like, oh, I feel like that's a statement.
That's funny.
Yeah,
I thought it was making fun of Nvidia too.
I didn't even, I wasn't sure, because the weirdest thing about when you're at these keynotes, I had a great time because I was in the same row sitting with Ian and Paul Alcorn and Avram. It's basically all the Future Perch folks, and we were sitting in the front row. And Kevin from Tech Radar, I just want to give shout outs out. We're just all in that front row, and you're doing so many things. Sometimes you can't. We get it's just like watching a football game or basketball game there. You get the worst view in the world, whereas people watching the stream actually get a better idea of what's going on sometimes.
Well, and I mean, you have your laptop out, you're actually writing at the same time, there's some stuff that can fly by you.
Yeah, I didn't really get the jacket thing, so I mean, also just sort of you usually try not to comment on people's clothes. I've been yelled at for that. So, although people make fun of my clothes all the time,
I didn't say anything about the clothes. I just noticed the material of the jacket.
Yes, that I think a lot of people took that as a veiled pushback against Nvidia. Right?
I'm just saying that I thought it was a sign of confidence.
So yeah, 3rd-gen Ryzen, no price, no course, and of course the big thing is that divot. Right?
Yes, that's what I was saying. I feel like they left room.
They literally left room.
They literally left room for speculation.
That was just so. There was just so
Adam actually got a good shot of that because you guys couldn't take it off the table, right?
Right.
You got a real good shot and bounced the light off of it just right, so you could see there is really supposed to be a chip in there. It has the dimples and impressions. There's a chip if you get it in the right light. There is a chip that's supposed to go in there.
Well, the crazy thing is, I almost immediately people were sending. I think Jason Cross at Macworld sent me a picture. And somebody had taken, I'm guessing because, they did the close-up when she was holding the Ryzen, 3rd-gen Ryzen, almost call it Ryzen 3, 3rd-gen Ryzen on stage. They got a close-up, and then people took that and they enhanced it Blade Runner-like,
enhance.
And then you can see, there's a square here that's, you can actually see that there's that's insane if you think about it. This is not because we got Adam, if you're watching the internet, go look at Adam's video and pictures. There is nobody else out there that has pictures as good as Adam's or the video. Yep. But people were enhance and modify on that video. And then I was
at first when we were able to look at it, we were able to pick it up and kind of look around, and we were trying to look, and we were like, man, we don't necessarily see. Yeah, but when we took pictures or did video, it had to be flat on the surface. But yeah, there was. I had a light with me. It was a very dark room, but I had one light with me, and then there was the ceiling cans high up in the venue. And I noticed that I could get, if I got it just right, I can get one of those ceiling cans to kind of light up that little area.
Talent in action.
Yeah, it was fun. I felt like we were, not CSI, but trying to look at a crime scene and understand what's there, and we're like, there's obviously space right there, and AMD's like,
right. And the other thing that's actually very significant on 3rd-gen Ryzen is it should be the first CPU with PCIe 4 Gen 4. So that's a big deal. So, although Radeon 7 will not be Gen 4, only Gen 3. So, Doesn't
Not
really
surprised.
matter much. It doesn't matter. And I think that PCIe, I think I said in that video with Keith May from WCCF Tech that
Great video.
it's mostly going to be, they're going to take the PCIe and probably use it for storage. You'll get the most out of it by using it for storage, not for graphic cards. It doesn't matter for graphics.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. Well, we had somebody on Twitter tweet at all of us asking, is now a good time to buy a CPU or should they wait for the third gen Ryzen?
I thought it was kind of hilarious how they put that to the four of us, and then like the rest of our coworkers all started chiming in too.
Jason
It's like
and Mike Simon.
like everybody wanted a piece of this question.
What did everybody else say?
I think we all pretty much said the same thing, which was if you can wait.
Yeah. I think I was the only one who said like if you need it for work right now, just get whatever
and that's
the best
caveat,
you can get.
right?
Yeah.
Mine was caveated with wait because I'm always, as you all know, I like to get the most value out of purchases. So I would say wait, see the performance numbers, decide if that amount of performance jump is worth going full price with Zen 2, or if it's worth waiting to see if you can get like an insanely good price on second gen Ryzen.
But are we hyping ourselves up here? We're trying to say, hey, it's going to compete. It's going to be on par with 9900K.
We're not saying that
Intel's.
We're saying that's what we were told.
Yeah. But I feel like maybe we're hyping ourselves up for a little bit. It's like maybe under certain circumstances it'll.
No.
I don't think that's us hyping ourselves up. That's AMD saying, hey, here's this going toe for toe with the 9900K with significantly less wattage, and this ain't done.
Yeah.
And there's this space on here. And then Mark at that roundtable asks Lisa Su, the CEO about it. And she's all like, yeah, we can't say anything, but we've always had the lead in core counts with Ryzen. So read what you will.
Yeah, and I don't think people should. I mean, there were clearly some leaks earlier that indicated they would show off a 16-core part at CES. They didn't. I actually talked to AMD about the leaks and that, and they said their theory is somebody, that obviously didn't have a full view of everything because they had PCIe 4 in there, but none of the leaks mentioned the PCIe 4, right? To the very, and so.
That's significant too.
Yeah, that's very significant. I think it's entirely possible people sort of take it that, for gospel, there will be a 16-core version. They don't necessarily have to. There's rumors of Intel doing a 10-core, right? 10-core part very soon. Well, AMD could do 12 cores.
$1,500.
So they can use two 6-core dies, right? Joined together by IF. And they don't necessarily have to go to 16. And, I still wonder how much the memory bandwidth itches can affect some things, not everything, of course. But I would wait. My advice is to wait because you'd have to be. It's going to suck, to get unless it's a great price. And again, you can't wait because you gotta buy something now. Then do it now. But my advice is to wait. I don't like paying, of course, again, I don't like
response.
paying
I saw your response.
full MSRP for 1080 Ti when the replacement part is there. Just,
I see. Yeah. For me, like in general, my rule is if you need to upgrade. If you need to upgrade, you should do it now. There's always something better around the corner.
Yeah.
But this is 6 months down the line, and the fact that you're even asking that question, should I upgrade or should I wait, means that you can wait, so you probably should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I would wait.
And then to answer your question, Adam, I think that if AMD is the company that's saying, or the entity that's saying, like, hey, look at all this stuff, like this is what we're anticipating, it's not hype given that they've actually delivered on the last 2 generations. Yeah. So, I mean, it could be that they let us down like they did with Vega, but I don't see it on this side of the table for them.
I mean, if anything, at least a new Wraith Prism, right?
That'll be people's.
Yeah. Well, they're not going to say Prism. What's the next best word we can find? They have Max, they have Prism, they have Spire. Let's see what else.
They don't iterate on the name.
They have Stealth. Wraith Stealth.
Banshee. Maybe go with Banshee.
That doesn't sound good though. Cooler and Banshee is usually bad.
I don't know. That's
true.
my Banshee.
There
noise.
certainly
That's
have
true.
been Banshee fans. And again, I agree with you. I think there's no way that they're gonna miss the mark on this. The only thing that could happen is like, yields suck, and that's a problem. But I do think that if 7 nanometer, they just have that. It's just going to give them a leg up they have not ever had in Ryzen's life, and they are always great at core counts. And now, once you have core count and then you have high clocks.
Yeah,
It's
right.
like, why do you buy Intel at that point, right? It's
I was
really tough.
I was kind of disappointed by the launch timing of it, because I think I said it on a show right before we went on vacation that I expected it to be like this, to be like the full reveal of Ryzen, because that's what they've done with the last two basically, and they have always launched in like April, March kind of a deal. And if they had done that and the chip winds up as good as it could potentially be, and Intel Sunny Cove parts don't come out till the holiday season. And like I said, I don't even expect desktop Sunny Cove parts this year personally. Then AMD could have had the market to itself all year long if they had managed to launch it in spring still. And the parts are as good as it is. So the fact that they're like, mid-year sometime, I'm like, oh, it's too bad you couldn't push it out a little bit sooner.
Yeah, I mean, that's an indication of maybe there's just still plenty of Ryzen parts out there, although announcing your next gen part doesn't help you sell those older ones, but I'm sure there'll be decent discounts. It also could just mean they don't have enough. I mean, it is a brand.
They're moving to 7 nanometer too, so I mean,
Yeah,
it's taken Intel like 5 years. So.
Pretty big jump. I think they're playing it a little more conservative. So
Yeah, but yeah, they have to manage height definitely, because if people get too excited at.
Right.
What if I heard some of the comments like, you know what, Lisa's like, we got to make some money. So what if this part comes out at, 10 or 12 cores and it's not $330, but $450 or $400,
I'd be fine with that.
Yeah.
I'd still be fine with the 8-core parts being right around $300, and then they just expand it upwards.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, let's play that game.
Man, it's the beginning of the year, dude.
I tell you what, I only ate 2 pieces of paper at this last predictions episode, but after this CES, I'm already up to 3. And we're not even just barely 2 weeks into the year. I don't want to make a guess.
Brad is starting to adopt my strategy, I see.
All right, here's my prediction. We're going to see
Do part number.
I'm making it up. Ryzen
3700X.
I think we'll see a Ryzen 9, right? So because hey, what the heck? Intel's got an i9, we got a Ryzen 9, right? Because right now they top at Ryzen 7, so they could very well do a Ryzen 9, 12 core. God, what are they gonna do? I just can't see 16. I mean, it depends on what Intel has. There's just no reason to do it. I think they'll do
Crap, I don't have a pen.
Ryzen 9, 12 core. Well, it's on. This is all on videotape.
Yeah, but we never go
on
back
tape.
and watch it, right?
Yeah, somebody will.
We're gonna do
12
this
core
again.
Ryzen 9, 5 gigahertz clocks on some turbo, and then probably right. So like clearly running up at 5-ish to compare. And
Okay,
wait,
now I'm
is
gonna
that?
look
I don't
at
know if that's like an exciting ooh, or is that like, oh, you're gonna eat one big ass piece of paper because you was so
Well,
wrong.
I'm just waiting for you to finish before I have
390
a final opinion.
with a new Wraith cooler. 390 new cooler.
Ooh.
So 12 cores, up near 5, 390-ish, basically pushing it to 400 because it's a Ryzen 9 part, and it'll be with a new Wraith cooler.
Man, I don't use this word
That's-
almost ever with technology, but that would be sexy.
Yes.
That would be pretty good.
See, I can't use that either. It's an HR violation. I get yelled at. It's
I
very
can't
exciting.
swear.
It's very
I can't.
exciting. Sorry.
This is why I have to swear at my children, because I can't do it.
No, I swear at work. People always wonder why I swear so much at work, because I can't swear home. You got kids, you can't swear.
You swore a lot at CES.
Of course,
Yeah.
you have to.
Yeah. So, and for people who don't know, I had a little special behind the scenes camera we did a lot of recording. So I'm gonna put together this week a behind the scenes at CES, and I'm gonna have to do a lot of bleeping, Gordon.
As long as in
I
Miami
enjoyed
Vice.
this clip I saw.
Yeah.
As long as the Miami Vice one makes it in, that's the one I think.
No, that one's definitely cut.
Oh, come on.
That is a bold prediction. That is a
Yeah.
very bold prediction.
If that comes anywhere near true, just if it hits 5 gigahertz and 12 cores for under 500, not even 390, that's going to be a hell of a part.
Well, I don't think it'll be all core at 5.
Oh, yeah.
all
No,
12.
no.
Not without. I mean, you can probably clock it up near that with
9900K
enough
doesn't do
cooling.
that either.
Well, it does. I mean, you can do all core 5 gigahertz 9900K is definitely pretty
Oh, you
normal.
got to overclock it, though.
Yeah,
Right?
sort of. Yeah, you could turn MCE on and it'll overclock it for you, right? So it depends on what the definition of overclock is.
I knew that was coming.
The good old
voice-
Bill Clinton. The
voice
first Bill
changes.
Clinton of the year.
Yeah.
First Bill Clinton of 2019.
Yeah, so I got it. Nobody else wants to put
No
it on
one
the
else wants to play
line.
this game.
Hell
no,
no.
I'm not doing that
Hell
yet.
no.
Like I said,
Oh,
I'm
come
already
on.
It's way too
wrong
early.
predictions in my mouth.
I don't think it'll be 16 cores at Computex because there's just no reason to do a 16 core part. They don't need it. They don't need it.
And Nvidia did that press conference and announced that they're supporting FreeSync, and I'm like, literally the very first thing of this year that's potentially possible to get wrong, I got wrong.
Gordon,
Did you predict that?
I said they're not going to do it.
I knew it would happen one
But
day.
you know what? To be fair, Brad, we all thought that. We did.
Gordon said they're going to do it this year. He was right.
Did I really?
Yeah, you did.
Did he do
That was
the?
at the end.
Did he do the
That was at the
counter?
end. You said that, and I go, no, there's no way. I'm going to counter that. I'll do the opposite.
Oh, it was a counter one. Oh,
Damn,
dang.
Damn, really? Are you serious? I got that
Dang.
right?
Oh, yeah.
We're gonna have to play that
Oh,
tape
yeah.
back. Wow.
I can't believe that. You can tell how I'm not. This is not based on inside information because I'm just throwing stuff out there. But that, and a lot of people didn't know about. I know some people were briefed ahead of time about what was going to happen at the keynote, the Nvidia keynote. The FreeSync stuff was omitted. That was like the bomb drop. So
Well, and you had
They didn't tell me about it.
and you had missed that whole part of them saying that you can enable FreeSync on any card and monitor if you want to go in there and manually set it. But obviously, it's not
because he
a
said
good
it,
experience.
and I said, did he just say? And it was the weirdest way. And we're going to be enabling, support for adaptive sync something. Like, wait, what did he just say? But it was like in every way to not say FreeSync.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He definitely did not want to say FreeSync. So, and a lot of NVIDIA people would not say FreeSync, but I clearly are supporting it, sort of, kind of. But and let's move on to the next one. Unless there's like tons of Ryzen 3 questions you want to clear,
I
but
did want to say
people are excited.
I did want to say one thing though, Gordon.
Uh-huh.
We said way back when, I don't even know when this was, but we said there's no way, not no way, but it wasn't likely that they would go to 32 core Threadripper. We thought it'd be fun if they did, but we thought, there's no need for them to. They totally did it. So I'm just saying there's a possibility that we could see a 16 core.
yeah, no, it is
part.
possible. I think it's entirely possible. I don't think. Well, I think they needed it more with Threadripper because Intel had its 28 core.
Fair.
Part, which ended up not being a Core i9 or Core X. It ended up being a Xeon labeled part. So
Right. I'm not saying that I definitively am putting
Yes.
money and paper on this.
no, nobody does. I did.
I'm just saying that there is a possibility.
Are you
there.
sure I actually said that, Brad? Because now I'm
Yeah,
like,
100%. I'm
I'm
100%.
really proud of myself.
Yeah.
I'm really I cannot. No,
Good
I
job,
don't believe
Gordon.
it.
Good job.
This is just going to reinforce
I knew that was
Gordon's
coming.
opinion
Ah, see?
that he has to say the most outlandish things on purpose. Just so
That
that
makes me
he
feel a
Sometimes so
little
good
bit
at it.
better because I was sitting there like, are you serious? This is literally the first day I could have got something wrong.
Because I was right.
Gordon's got to be sitting there gloating right now, so I'm kind of glad that I guess not. I thought I was face pumping. I pictured you like fist pumping on the other side.
Well, I didn't even know what had happened because it was such a backwards we're gonna not
it was
support.
kinda weird.
We're gonna not support the adaptive sync that's in the industry. Visa spec.
Async.
Wait, what?
Good.
Yeah, they're like, hey, most of these monitors out there suck, but we found 12 that are good.
Well, the thing is,
If you still want to use your sucky monitor, you can turn it on.
interesting thing is, so out of that, we're going to move on to the CES stuff. So obviously, day one, Nvidia comes out. Jensen Jarrett's like, hey, RTX laptops. It's insane that we have RTX across 40 laptops, and that's like not even the big news thing out of CES, right? It's like, you had 2060, but it was really the FreeSync thing. And it was like, oh my God, NVIDIA's finally, I saw a lot of headlines like NVIDIA finally admits defeat, supports FreeSync.
Oh.
Right? I saw a lot of those headlines.
Yeah.
And that's what I was like, I was trying to understand what this was. And I talked to a lot of NVIDIA people. Some people were very like, they're like, hey, we just want to support gamers and help them. And then there were definitely some people at NVIDIA that were just throwing shade, right? They were just like, and later on, and then we saw, if you go and look at the demo, where they showed...
Yeah, we did a fun video.
We did a fun video. I mean, not fun for people who are FreeSync supporters, but there are clearly some issues that NVIDIA has found with some of these adaptive sync monitors. and they were calling them out. And I couldn't really figure out, like, are they trying to put out an olive branch and say we're going to support this? But it was very much an NVIDIA way of like, hey, we're going to put out an olive branch, but we're going to make it better because you have been screwing us up this whole time. It feels
I think the way that they launched it is actually very clever because it still positions G-Sync itself as the premium option.
Right.
Like what they've been doing with G-Sync, they're still doing, but they don't have to bother trying to price compete.
Yeah.
Like there's no 1060 G-Sync monitor that you can do for 1080p gaming that's under $400. All the G-Sync 1080 monitors are expensive as hell too. So this, I mean, it's like, yeah, you can use that if you want with your cheap cards.
Yeah.
Well, and we
Step up the G-Sync.
It's like a burning olive branch, right?
Yeah.
Like here's the olive branch, but we set it on fire.
Yeah.
Well, and in the interview, Gordon did ask, with NVIDIA, hey, does this mean G-Sync going away? And the answer the gentleman had was, hey, we just released the BFGD, which there's a piece of paper I need to eat.
Right.
Because that was one of the first
They
announcements.
They actually launched it.
Omen
Yeah.
X, yeah.
Only
the
one
HP
I
had
I
one.
missed that.
Yeah.
$5,000.
Yeah, $5,000.
Only $5,000.
With a sound bar.
65 inches of
Yeah.
high frame rate goodness.
But G-Sync, nonetheless, they're saying, hey, it's still around. And when we saw Razer's new monitor, which it does not have G-Sync, but we were saying, hey, is this in the process? Is this something you want to get? And they were like, well, of course we would love to be either certified as one of the 13 or whatever, or, whatnot. Because now that's an exclusive club, right? If you're part of the 12.
Right. Yeah.
Round table.
Yeah, right.
I just can't tell whether it's to help or just simply to accentuate how great G-Sync is in their opinion, versus you have that just open standard that people are
that's 100% what it is. That's them saying, hey man, we have a high standard, these ones match our standard. There's only 12 out of 400. But the thing is, they're not wrong. Like G-Sync panels are like, when you buy a G-Sync panel, you know what you're getting. You don't know what you're getting with FreeSync. And that's like, it's affordable and people can buy it, but it could only support free refresh ranges from like 48 to 75. A bunch of them do, which is like, if you're not playing in that window, then you're not getting the benefits and whatnot.
Yeah.
Whereas G-Sync, you're like, these are G-Sync quality. You know what you're going to get. It's going to be FreeSync across the board. It's going to be ultra low motion blur, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it was actually a really clever way for NVIDIA to do it.
Well, but Vignesh has a question or maybe concern. Do we think that NVIDIA is going to charge to validate displays as G-Sync compatible?
Oh, totally. Yeah, I would totally expect that.
So, but if so, then NVIDIA is effectively charging money for a free industry standard technology.
Well,
it's a monitor maker opting to pay NVIDIA to get the G-Sync compatible license.
A lot of monitor makers understand that it is very valuable because, I mean, the truth is more than 70% of gamers use GeForce instead of Radeon. They know there's a lot of value in having that sticker on there. Even if there's no hardware, to get that logo on a monitor sells you more monitors. So, but yeah, you're right. NVIDIA will do that, but
can we still call it FreeSync at that point? Because it's not free.
Well, FreeSync 2 isn't free either, right? So,
well, they don't support FreeSync. FreeSync is built on top of the VESA Adaptive Sync, and that's technically what NVIDIA is supporting. It's just that supporting that means you effectively support FreeSync monitors.
Got it.
Yeah, and there were also a lot of people that said, like, well, look, if you have this monitor, you just simply have to stay within the range, right? So what's happening, because the thing that really bugs you is that blanking. If you look at that video, just once in a while, it just starts like really blanking. And
we have a lot of comments on that YouTube video of people saying, hey, I have this problem, I've had this problem, I just end up turning everything off and not dealing with it.
Some of them have Radeon. They say, I have a problem, this monitor, and the problem is with Radeon 2. And some people say, like, oh, this is easily fixable if you edit the EDID data, which is basically the encoded information sent over HDMI and your display to tell the video card what to set up as. You can edit that and make it stay within the correct range so it doesn't blank out. So
NVIDIA's never going to do that. They're not going to do extra work.
No. I mean, their whole idea is like, this is the spec. We're going to follow the spec. And if your spec is not written as stringently as ours or a 300 test, whatever, not our problem. You look bad. It's just kind of like,
buy a G-Sync monitor. If you want to take a shot at one of the other ones, go ahead.
I mean, that's why I was so confused, because I wasn't sure whether I saw plenty of headlines that said, "Oh, Nvidia finally caves. They're supporting FreeSync," but there was so much shade thrown.
Yeah.
I don't think they're caving at all. So they're like, "No, you want G-Sync, it's going to be around." So
Oh, and also in that video, Gordon tried to get I'm sorry, I can't remember his name to say the word FreeSync, and they wouldn't even say FreeSync.
That was weird.
Pretty
just
funny.
joking because
that was funny. That was funny.
I know, but because they don't want to say it. They're just.
I think it's also really clever timing because, like I was saying earlier, in my initial review of the 2060, I'm like, the only reason to buy a Vega over this is for FreeSync. So now, I mean, they put out the 2060, it can do FreeSync too. Just real clever timing on all kinds of stuff, the way they handled this all the way around.
Yeah.
There is a little asterisk to that, though, Brad, given the whole monitor situation, right? So you can get the 2060, but you still are only limited to a certain number of FreeSync monitors.
Well,
No, that's not true. The way it
Well,
works is that home are automatically enabled.
Well,
But
I mean,
all the
that'll
rest
work
of them
out of the
can go.
box is what I mean, right? Because the whole point of that video demonstration that Gordon looked at was that, some of them is not, out of the box, turnkey kind of solution.
Yeah.
I will say to that, because when I read that, I'm like, ooh, NVIDIA's doing a good job of spreading FUD a little bit here. Because, yes, there are lesser quality FreeSync monitors. There are over 400. They had 2 monitors that had issues there. And there hasn't been widespread reports of, hey, my FreeSync monitor's blinking all over the place. This is garbage, et cetera, et cetera. I think, there are going to be monitors with issues in it, but I don't think it's anywhere near as widespread or drastic as NVIDIA's making it out
So then
to be.
here's my question for you, both of you, because I've been kind of out of the loop just because I was on vacation pretty much all up until last week. And I've only read kind of very cursory information on all of this. So on the one hand, the first part of the show we're talking about, and you guys are saying like, G-Sync's still great because it's turnkey. And then now you're saying this. And so to me, not like having read up a lot on all of it altogether, it sounds like two very conflicting opinions, and I'm just trying to figure out now, like what the lay of the land really is. Then
You want to go first, Brad? I have a different opinion than you, I think.
G-Sync just works, but you pay for it.
okay,
Most of the time.
FreeSync probably will work.
okay,
It might not, but you don't pay for it.
okay, okay. So, all right, let me get Gordon's take, and then I'll try to summarize this in my head.
They are not caving on G-Sync. They will continue to push it as a premium feature as long as they can.
Mm-hmm.
My prediction is long term. It's pretty hard. It's hard to see G-Sync being around in the way it's implemented today in 5 years because no hardware versus having hardware. The monitor vendors are going to always go the cheapest path. I think it's a good thing because they are doing it. They enable it on the FreeSync ecosystem.
Okay.
They can possibly lift some boats up, so I think that is good. I also do think they are highlighting for themselves. I don't know if it's just because they want to feel better that G-Sync was implemented better with at least some testing. They may just want to throw some shade at it, but ultimately it's good for all gamers because you can turn it on with GeForce. A lot of people are on GeForce. Okay. And I do think I do see this long term. This is them having we see that this is the curve of history. To be able to say you can buy a Vega and get all of these features for cheap is a way better option than you can buy 2060 and you can't afford a G-Sync monitor. So now they can have both. It's like it may kind of stink, but what are you going to do?
Okay. So I guess the comment earlier about how, FreeSync can be kind of like a little all over the board where it's like only certain refresh ranges are supported, so on and so forth. That's just more of buyer beware in the sense of when you're looking for a monitor, just be aware of these limitations as opposed to with G-Sync, like you don't have to worry because like all these things are just support out of the box.
There are clearly issues. Sometimes, like somebody was saying, because I was monitoring all the chat in the video we did, people were saying, hey, if you have this G-Sync monitor and then you hook up another computer to another port, then it does weird things because probably the hardware scaler that was used. I do think, and they do some testing. And I have heard complaints from laptop vendors and monitor vendors for years that said like, oh, this G-Sync thing just sucks because we send NVIDIA the monitor And it's like 2 months later, and they haven't approved it yet. They're always every single vendor would just complain and complain and complain. Like, NVIDIA has not approved our monitor yet, so we can't say G-Sync. So is NVIDIA just sitting on it because they got nothing to do, or are they actually saying,
well,
it
sounds like they said they have enough time to test 400 of them.
Right.
So.
Well, now, but I mean, I will say in the meantime, over the years, since, G-Sync was introduced, they've certainly spooled up their testing. But for years and years and years, everybody complained like it just sucks. Like you'd see a lot of times like, oh, is this laptop, G-Sync, or is that No, it's like we're waiting on NVIDIA to improve it, and they're slow as hell. So it sort of says that they were doing at least some testing. So, but open standards are always messy, right? So, you know what? Hey, you get adaptive sync. It's maybe not quite as good, but it's a lot cheaper. It's $100 cheaper than G-Sync. So
Okay.
I think this is like the best of both worlds, because I really do think that G-Sync is, it just works. It really does. Like, and NVIDIA like works with the panel makers to make sure the panels are like, they are over that whole thing.
Right.
And I do think the free syncs being open and everybody using it is a huge advantage too. And this is just like having your cake and eating it too, I think, for your GeForce use.
Okay.
Yeah, they're going to try to anyway. We'll see how it works.
I think I got that sorted out in my head. Sorry, everyone. Long diversion.
No worries. While we're on the graphics subject, we have a lot of people asking about our thoughts on Radeon Vega 2.
It's not Vega 2. It's although I realize they were just
20, I think. Vega 7 nanometer.
Yeah. Vega 7.
Well, no,
they call it Radeon 7, right? So it's Radeon 7. There's no Radeon RX Vega. None of that stuff. It's just Radeon VII, and they were, I didn't realize it till like 3 days later. They were just trolling us.
This was late at night in our hotel room, and I was editing, and Gordon's just like, I figured it out. It was there all along.
Yeah, right in your face.
It was right in your face.
It was like right in your face, because it was Radeon Vega 2,
VII V2.
Right?
Radeon Vega 2.
But they called it.
It was right in our face.
She says, oh, it's Radeon 7 nanometer, but VII, Vega 2, because it's Vega, it's second generation Vega, it's not Navi.
Clever.
They're probably, these people are so dumb. They didn't figure it out. No, well, I didn't. I'm sure everybody else did, but.
I didn't at the time. This is new. This is blowing my mind. That's pretty great. I like
Isn't that crazy? You're just like having that coffee. And you're it's right in our faces.
Shower thoughts.
Vega 2, right?
Yeah.
What do you think, Brad? Brad was underwhelmed. As underwhelmed as Jensen?
Not as underwhelmed as Jensen. No, I wouldn't say I'm underwhelmed. I'm just not overwhelmed. I think it's going to be a good part. I think it's going to be good. I think it's great that they'll have a 4K card, because in the numbers that they put out, it's basically, trading blows with the RTX 2080.
Yeah.
Yep, which is a $700 card, just the same as the Radeon 7 is. And yeah, so they'll finally have a 4K card. That's going to be great. That being said, I was hoping for the first 7 nanometer GPU to, maybe push a little bit further, because realistically, like if you break it down, like it's like we expected the original Vega to battle the GTX 1080 Ti, right? And that didn't happen. That's what this card is doing now. So it's like 2 years later, it's at GTX 1080 Ti level. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I hear you. That's actually a very interesting one, because up against 1080 Ti, because 1080 Ti is still going to be out there.
No, they're gone. It's
they're all
2080.
gone. Oh, well then, okay,
yeah.
That's not a problem then. But I think it's going to be a good part. I'm just like, yeah, that's cool. I really was hoping that they would at least tease Navi like they did with Ryzen 3rd Gen, and be like, yeah, and later this year we're going to have our new Navi architecture. Like, we can't say too much, but here's like a high-level sneak like they did with Cinebench with the Ryzen 3rd Gen. But go ahead.
Oh, so I guess, Brad, my question to you would be, would you have wanted to see a stronger showing at the high end, or would you have preferred them actually just coming out with some kind of mind-blowing mainstream card instead?
Like what, another APU?
Hey, that won, okay? That won.
Yeah, people's
the power
choice.
of the people made sure that won.
It's almost as valuable as a Golden Globe I got in my closet, too, I think. Well, I just want to say my reaction to is Radeon 7 is. I think a lot of because people are like, yeah, okay, we'll see. A lot of professional hardware people, and that was honestly not just a lot of people were just kind of like, yeah, they're more excited about their Gen Ryzen. I think people are overreacting. I think we got to wait and see. This will be the first 7-nanometer GPU. Again, we don't know what you're going to see from it till reviewers get it, and it could actually be, it could exceed our expectations, I think.
Right.
And it's launching very soon, February 7th, actually, which surprised the heck out of me.
Yeah. We'll see it really soon.
But I did see a lot of people out there. I was really surprised. They were just disappointed. And I don't understand where these people are because...
Well, that's why I asked my question, because it's like, it almost seems to me like the disappointment is based on like expectations or hopes. And I'm kind of trying to like tease out what those hopes or expectations were before the show.
I was hoping to hear about Navi. That's what I was hoping.
Yeah. People want to see the next gen part. So what I want to ask, and I'm going to ask this, in August, RTX comes out. The entire internet says, we don't need this ray tracing junk. We just need, more performance. We don't care. We don't care about any of the stuff. Just give us our, right? We don't want ray tracing. The message.
We want frame rates.
The message I heard from everybody, not everyone, obviously, but a hell of a lot of people was, we don't want ray tracing. You're just wasting this die on stuff I can't use for 3 years. Well, here's that card, right? Here's that card. It doesn't have ray tracing. It doesn't have DLSS. It doesn't have, right? Are they going to now go like, I want a RTX 2080 because it got ray tracing?
I'm not picking up what you're putting down. I don't agree that that's the same thing, because I find it very interesting, the configuration of Radeon 7. I mean, obviously we won't know for sure until we do reviews and whatnot, but I find it interesting that they did slap 16 gigabytes of high bandwidth memory on there. And then their first benchmarks that they talked about weren't gaming benchmarks. They're like, hey, we have this with all this memory, throughput and 16 gigabytes of high bandwidth memory. Here's the compute task. We think it'll be good for compute.
Right.
I think I would have been more overwhelmed. Like I said, I wasn't overwhelmed by it. If it had like Vega 64, 8 gigabytes of high bandwidth memory and like a $500 price tag. So it's RTX 2080 level, decent, high bandwidth memory, 8 gigabytes, $500. That would be a lot more exciting part to me, I think.
Yeah. Do you get the impression that this is like a one-off? Because it is interesting. It's just Ryzen 7, not Ryzen 7.
Radeon.
Or Radeon 7, not model number. I mean, they didn't.
I think after this, the only thing we're going to see is, I don't think we're going to see more Vega spinoffs. So we're going to see Navi later this year. That's what I was hoping to see this year. So
yeah. It is.
I mean, they have the technology. They're already making these parts to go into the Instinct things. Yeah. They might as well put them to use here too.
Okay.
Yeah, we got a lot of people in chat saying they think it'll be good for compute tasks. So I'm interested to check it out.
Yeah, it'd be interesting there, right? Because it could be sort of a poor nerd's way to get into a MI card.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But without the software, without the fancy pro software, which is actually a big difference depending on what you're doing.
Yeah, but AMD's pretty good about just giving it away to everybody. Mm-hmm. They're not really NVIDIA likes to sort of dole stuff out, Quadro only feature, GeForce only feature. It seems like Radeon team we don't care.
I'm actually really excited to test that because I'm real curious to see how it hangs, not just against the RTX 2080, but it's real interesting how much that they say how different it is from Vega 64. Because it actually has fewer compute units, but it's a pretty big performance jump in the claims from AMD. So I think I'm really looking forward to reviewing that card, actually.
It feels like they just took a lot of it. They took a lot of the savings from 7-nanometer, popped up the clocks, right? So it would be very high clock part. So, I mean, the power use will be relatively high for what it is, but it's still 7-nanometer, so it's probably going to be using less.
Yep, and another interesting thing is I believe this is going to be the first card that AMD sells directly. They're doing like Founders Edition, like the card that she held up. You're going to be able to buy from AMD.com.
Oh, really?
So NVIDIA's been competing against its partners. Now AMD is too.
Wow.
Nice. So, I mean, I guess we'll see it pretty soon, huh? They said...
less than a month.
Yeah, so that's exciting. There are a lot of people interested to hear other CES stuff that's not just AMD Nvidia related.
Oh, good Lord. There's
well,
so many things.
yeah,
Where should we start?
man.
Any Intel things to hit?
Sunny Cove at the end of the year.
Yeah, Sunny Cove. Sunny Cove at the end of the year, and they also showed off Ice Lake U, I think, right? Laptop, but no performance numbers. So no, it's to be. I will say this is something I'm going to put out over the air, although I have not gone out to ask other vendors to verify this, but I do understand that there will, so that Xeon part that's coming out, you know, the 28-core Xeon part that they showed off at Computex, and then everybody punched them face over because they say they forgot to say it was overclock part. Clearly, it's an overclock part, right? But I am hearing people are like, yeah, this thing is just like, damn, it does overclock nicely. So I want to ask you this. If they come out with the 28-core Xeon, which is funny, it's called Xeon, and if people are like successfully able to run it at 5 gigahertz, did they fulfill what they said last year?
I don't know. I don't really have an answer. It depends if you need a refrigerator.
No, well, I mean, yeah, you're not gonna do this with you know a $50 CLC that you get on sale. This is definitely custom water loop. But anybody who is buying a last number I heard was $5,000. Anybody who's buying a $5,000 28-core CPU, you're going to be running custom loops. So custom loop, and the motherboard that I saw for this thing, I don't think we did any videos. It's one of the two was
Said it was
the
heavy as hell.
was the Asus Dominus Maximus, which is just like, it was 10 pounds. It was monstrous. It's got two 24-pin main power connectors, and then has like another 6 GPU power connectors on top. All of it so they can just run that thing at just monstrous clocks. So it's gonna be a monster. It's going to be something that, yeah, I haven't seen the part, you don't know, but it's clearly probably going to clean the clock of a 32-core Ryzen, which is not going to clock up as high. At the same time, more than 2x the price.
Yeah.
Super expensive motherboard. All these other things.
And
but
the power draw, I'm sure.
You don't build a great big monster truck with the big wheels that you can run over a Prius with, and you go like, "Wow, is it a hybrid? No, this is a monster truck." Did you see the flames spitting out the exhaust at the top?
I'm just saying that
Sunday.
I'm just saying that if you're not doing monster truck rallies as a career, maybe you don't need. Maybe you could get by with better fuel economy. That's all I'm saying.
Oh well, I think people who buy a monster truck buy a monster truck to have the monster truck. Or, of course, I don't. It's really interesting because there's sort of like this sort of, Lamborghini, McLaren, Ferrari sort of thing. This is a monster truck. This has got like, the wheels that are like 12 feet tall.
Look, all I'm saying is that a Hummer will fit in my garage.
And I think Steve at Gamers Nexus was reporting that they're going to have like custom cases made because the boards are so big.
I don't even know if they're going to be able to sell this thing. So it'll be something. It almost feels like one of those things like, we said you're going to be able to buy this thing. We're going to sell it so that we said we did it.
2 people
Check
will buy
mark. I know it's crazy. People don't believe it, especially if you like picking APU for your best GPU of the year. But there are people at the very high end that they get off on this. There's a reason why people buy.
I'm not saying they don't.
F350s. I wish I had F350.
F350 is not a Sunday kind of truck.
Definitely.
Yeah, but the cost of even an F150 these days, it's like 40 to 50 grand. So they're not cheap. And there's a real crowd that likes these monster trucks.
I'm not saying that there's not a crowd. I was just saying that I was very pleased that someone thought of the little people, so to speak, last year. That's all. We're people too, Gordon.
I know, I understand that, but then you can't rain on people who are like, oh yeah, check this out. It gets like 2 miles to the gallon, and I can't park it anywhere because it's so big. There's just a cool factor to it.
I was just adding to your list of like all the things that it's going to need.
No, I agree. But performance.
I'm just happy because that was probably my favorite metaphor of all time on the show. I actually really like that. Yeah.
So I guess that's coming. RTX laptops. Should we talk about that?
Yeah,
Anybody excited?
It's so weird.
There's a lot
because
of them.
It's just so weird that
40.
it feels like we should be super excited, but it just got so eclipsed by everything else that it kind of feels just like
there's a lot.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
sure.
it's insane. And again, this brings up. I think I had a conversation with somebody in the industry before. And I said, yeah, I heard these rumors of RTX laptop. And he said, does that make any sense? I said, no, but because, at that time, the performance was so bad in Battlefield, right? It really felt like 30 frames a second.
But why doesn't it make sense though? To me, it makes sense that they would try to put their latest, parts into a laptop. Even if you can't use all the features, it's no different than desktop right now. You can't use all the features on desktop because the games just don't support it. But this way, you're, quote unquote, future proof.
Yeah.
You have the latest part. You have that, small amount of extra performance over, a GTX part. So I guess for me, just being kind of removed from everything because I was in vacation mode. To me, it was just like, oh, that's cool. I'm glad they're doing it already and they didn't push it out further in terms of timing. But it seemed to me like a very natural step.
I agree. It's just that, these dies, everybody believed the dies to be huge and expensive.
Okay.
And
they still are.
They still are. So to actually put that into a laptop and then to put that into a stupidly thin and light laptop.
Oh.
Right?
I didn't realize they were an ultra thin.
Oh yeah.
Well, they weren't ultra were not an ultra
GS75,
but like GS75, 5 pounds. There were just a ton of these Zephyrus. There was the Aero 15 that was there.
Yep.
There were a ton of laptops that had GTX 2070. Oh gosh, I just can never going to give it the RTX 2070. 2060, 2070, and 2080 range. Max Q though on those two top end parts.
Okay, so they're still doing
only Max Q, or is it both?
So as I understand it,
that was confusing.
There is something I know that they say they're not trying to confuse us, but clearly they would say, this Aero 15 or this GS75 has RTX 2080. It's RTX 2080 Max Q. So they're lower clock parts. And I was like, well, you didn't say it was Max Q. We're like, oh, well,
it's still a 2080.
People know that. It's a thin laptop cord. It's like, hell no, you got to tell me what's in there, right? It really was like, that was like what somebody said. Like, no, you need to specifically tell me.
They've been playing that game forever, though.
No, it's even worse now because I know the vendors, at one point, the vendors were saying Max P, and then NVIDIA said there's no such thing as Max P. Stop saying that. And we still use it to say, so there are 2080 parts in bigger, thicker laptops, and then there are, Mac 2080 and 2070 Max Q parts in thinner laptops. It's sort of
you were surprised too. Like the GS65 only went up to a 1070, correct?
2070, I think.
No. Like the previous gen, it went to a 1070, but this new 75 will go up to a 1080. Or 2080.
So previously, the example Adam is using is the MSI GS65, as well as the Aero 50, the Gigabyte Aero 15.
4.5 pound ones.
4 to 5. Actually, the 4 pounds for the GS65.
Oof.
That would topped out at a
1070
Max Q.
Max Q.
So now it tops out at a 2080 Max Q.
Holy moly!
And it seems
that's the difference.
Everybody basically went up a click, but their Max Q. So for the most part, all the vendors are saying, the power we are seeing, very decent power savings in these things, power and thermals. So we can go a step up, and of course, it's a step up in the model number. And there's Max Q to add into that. But one thing that is not known is performance. No one knows how these things perform.
Yeah.
No one's allowed to talk about how they perform. Actually, the vendors
people weren't talking price much either.
Not much price. We got a couple prices. There's a Cyber Power Tracer series that they actually said, hey, the prices are not bad. A lot of people sort of assumed it was like 2080, where it just like made you cry. But the 2080 from across the board, I talked about 3 vendors, said it's actually not a huge price change. You're saying about $100 roughly.
That's not terrible.
And that's on the GPU itself. You got to remember, you got to bundle the rest of the laptop around that. Right. So they're saying it's very reasonable.
Isn't that about what you spend, $100 or $200 more than you would with the desktop parts too? So is it just that it's more palatable because it's so much more expensive than a gaming laptop? Because that seems like to correlate to the desktop price increase to me.
Well, when I look at like 2080 versus 1080 versus 2080, 500 to what was 2080 going for?
$700, I think it launched.
And 1080 was what, 5?
Yep.
So it was
it was actually $650.
Was it?
But it got down to 5 real quick. Yeah.
We need to. Internet needs to agree on the pricing because everybody has different prices. They remember that, and then that's their idea. The blowout, like I've definitely seen people say, "Well, 1060 GTX, that's like $1,100 now." Well, yeah, it's kind of like, it's on the way out. So When the 1060 Max P laptops were $1,500 at introduction with 128 gig SSD. Now you're looking at
we're just getting spoiled.
Now you're looking at a 2060 class laptop with 512 gigs, and 144 hertz panels for $1,500 to $1,600. So not really.
That's a pretty juicy configuration.
It is really
there.
nice,
that
right?
Sounds real good.
Man.
Yeah, because I remember at GS63, good example, MSI, that was $1,500, right? 128 gig SSD. So now we're 512, 2060 RTX.
Life is good.
Yeah, right.
Although we don't know the pricing of the GS65.
We don't. I'm just saying that
Dude, that 75
specs that you
looked
can
awesome.
the specs that you can get now in a laptop just alone are just
Yeah. And
nice.
It's interesting. We have 40. So with 40 new laptops with RTX, 17 of them are Max Q, which is another way of saying, thin and light, right? Thin and light gaming laptop. So that's a significant increase from the original Max Q launch, which I think there were like only a handful. So now you're up to 17. I know that a lot of vendors have complained to me that this is Nvidia pushing. They don't really understand why Nvidia keeps pushing these things. So, but
the thin and lights.
What's ironic to me is that I believe it was the 10 series, last generation, where finally, for the first time in forever, you don't have to sacrifice any performance going from the desktop part to the laptop part. When you get a 1080, it's a 1080. And then everyone's like, yeah, the day is finally here. And then they're like, like 6 months later, they're like, now you can get a 1080 Max Q, which is exactly what we had before and everyone complained about. But now we're doing it again.
No, that is a fair point. And that is the one thing. It's like, I don't know where the performance of these things are going to fall. Like, so if a 27 Max Q is the equal of a RTX 2060, I mean, people are going to be unhappy, right? But I mean, Max Q was always a pretty big performance nerf, even on 10
I consider it like my general rule of thumb for laptops with the 10 series Max Q parts was a step down. So if it's a 1080 Max Q, it's like a 1070 kind of a deal. And there's variability, but
yeah, definitely based on the thermals of the laptop. But also, what's interesting is 2080 Max Q was basically as fast as a high clock 2070 Max P part. I'm using the full power. Max P meaning full performance, not official. So it really felt like, wow, that's a lot of people were like, oh my God, that's a big hit in performance to go to a 2070. But admittedly, an overclock 2070, like big laptop hot, versus a thin and light 2080 Max Q. But when you got to Max 1060 Max Q, it was only about a 10%, and 1050, it was only about a 10% difference in performance mostly, because 2080 performance savings was huge, right? You save like 65 watts. But when you went to 1060, the savings was like 15 watts. It was like almost nothing. So
that's how power cards work. It's the same with desktop cards. Yeah. Like if you push Vega, if you take Vega and try to overclock it, you won't get far. The power will spike, performance won't. So makes sense.
All right, we got to move on. What else? We don't have much time.
Well, what about that Alienware laptop, huh?
Oh, that's crazy.
Desktop and...
There's so many crazy things to talk about.
Desktop CPU and GPU
I got to be out of here in about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, Brad's got 10 minutes. But Alienware Area 51M, socketed 9900K part.
Dang.
Socketed 9900K part.
Yeah.
And the big deal, of course, which people have not really talked about too much, is the replaceable graphics. So they have a custom-made graphics card in there. It's it's mounted down with a motherboard, but it is removable. They're saying you can upgrade it. I think Linus. I think somebody else did a takedown of it, right? So
yeah, it was Linus. Yeah,
Linus did a take a part of it, and you can see the part. But I talked to Alienware about this, and they're saying we have basically designed enough thermal headroom and enough power so that we believe, no guarantees that it'll last forever, but you'll be able to upgrade this GPU. This is not the first time it's been done. Asus did it 10 years ago. It went nowhere because the problem with power consumption on GPUs went up, thermals went up, so they couldn't put in the next generation card because it was too hot. It basically was a one generation upgradable GPU. I think Alienware knows that the way GPU power is going, it's going down because we're going to get to 7 nanometer, whatever. So you will actually have the holy grail of gaming laptops because you'll be able to upgrade the graphics inside of it. And the other thing Alienware said, the reason we can get these cards is because we're Alienware, right? We have the power of Dell behind us. Other vendors can't go to.
Why are you laughing?
Other vendors can't go to. No,
yeah, we're Alienware. We got it.
People throw the shade at Alienware because they're big now, but the power of Alienware with Dell standing behind it is they go to AMD, they go to Nvidia and said, you know what? We don't sell as many laptops as say MSI or Asus, maybe. I don't know, but. You know what? We're Dell. You want our business? You need to do this for us. And they're like, yes, sir, because it's
so. And we're hoping to get
a ton of Alienware too.
Alienware, desktop, right? So desktop parts.
And we're hoping to get Frank Azor from Alienware on the show. We did talk to him about that, so that would be awesome.
That would be awesome.
Just to keep it moving right along. What about? Oh crap! It was just on
Jensen?
the tip of my tongue.
Oh, you had the keyboards you could change. You could
no,
systems.
the LEDs, dude. How are you skipping over the LEDs?
Oh, come on, that's the most important thing.
Yeah, the most important thing at CES.
Why are people like getting on me now? I don't understand it because, like I said, the most important thing at CES is the Corsair Capellix LED, basically mini LEDs. I understand it. They're
so tiny, so
they're
cute.
Micro size. They're not micro size, but they're just miniature compared to what we normally get for RGB.
But
LEDs,
brighter and more power efficient.
saving. So. Yeah. I think by the time they roll everything out in 2 years,
your whole system will be lit up like the Strip.
What we look at now with RGB will be like, oh my God. It'll be like what I have at home, which is like a liquor store, just a blinking one. No, this is going to be like, wow, these are going to be beautiful.
From the guys who routinely wear RGB lit up glasses to events.
Yes. I think it's going to be, I know people like, oh, Gordon, you're crazy. This is as important as RTX or Ryzen. And it's like, yeah, okay. You know what sells better to people? RGB. You put RGB on a Pentium N, and people will buy that. It's just
probably would.
It's unfortunate, but it's true. So
also,
I thought it was.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I thought it was interesting that EVGA got into sound cards.
I was just about to say that. That's funny. Great minds think alike. Yeah, no, we went to EVGA and we were like, is there really going to be any surprises? Let's see what they have, and then they were like, oh yeah, we got a sound card right here, and we're like, what? Like, you guys are getting into sound cards?
Isn't that crazy?
Kind of a weird little mixed message because it's for the high end. The guy that was there was from a company called Audio Note, and he was a high end audiophile. He could talk audio in ways that would make my head spin.
Right.
But there. And the card was wrapped in a shroud with RGB lighting and, kind of looked very EVGA and gamer, but they weren't pushing any sort of gamer aspects of this. They were just like, no, we just want really pristine, amazing audio. Right. So it's kind of a weird little mixed message, but, hey, it got people talking about audio,
which is good,
which is always good. And yeah, I don't know. I did ask them, I was like, well, is there a benefit to having an all EVGA system? You got the board, the graphics card, the sound card, and they're like, yeah, you get the RGB to sync up.
It's also a lower price. If you're in the EVGA club, you get, instead of the card is $250, $199 if you're in the EVGA club. I don't know what that's like. Cool. Maybe Costco, you got to buy like 10 cards at once, but
10 cards at bulk.
It'll be interesting. Different philosophies, very different philosophies than what Creative does and what EVGA is doing.
Which side note, some people were asking about Creative. Creative was there. We had a good talk with Mr. Sim and Ryan, of course. So the Super X-Fi technology, first came out as a dongle, but now they're building it into a pair of headphones, the Super X-Fi Air. So it's Bluetooth headphones, so you can still use Bluetooth, but then the processing's all done on the headphones, which is awesome. And then they also had a home theater version where you could have up to 4 or 8, if you have 2 boxes, people with their own little Super X-Fi headphone sets watching something separately,
The Bluetooth ones, are those ones that they're selling themselves, or is it like they're giving the technology to a partner?
Nope, this is all created in-house. The theater ones were really high-end, very audiophile feeling. The Super X-Fi Air, they have ones without the Super X-Fi technology in them, so I think they already sell those. So they're kind of the gamer headset with microphone and everything.
Yeah, and it's low latency dongle. So they said so you can not
for the theater
out of
one.
sync lips for the theater one.
because that's very important. Yeah.
Oh God, there's so much more to talk about. But
So
I
much
want to
more.
hear Brad's opinion on this because I don't know if we're going to have time to talk about it. We have not.
I got to be out of here in like 5 minutes.
Or 5 minutes. I mean, we don't even have. So, Jensen, I think we got to talk about Jensen.
Do it.
So we had there was a very right after
You made him mad.
right after AMD's keynote, there was a very small get together, maybe 20 reporters there. I was luckily there. I asked Jensen the first question, which is like, what do you think of Radeon 7? He immediately went, I think, ballistic. You can see it in the story on PCWorld, but he said, quote, it's
Great story.
underwhelming. The performance is lousy, and there's nothing new. There's no ray tracing, no AI. It's 7 nanometers with HBM memory that barely keeps up with a 2080. And if we turn on DLSS, we'll crush it. And if we turn on ray tracing, we'll crush it. He also threw shade at Intel a little bit, and then definitely also at FreeSync. Said basically, it doesn't work. And because it was like somebody else asked him, well, what about FreeSync? You're finally caving and supporting FreeSync, and he's like, we never competed actually. FreeSync was never proven to work. As you know, we invented the area of adaptive sync. The truth is, most of the FreeSync monitors do not work. They do not even work with AMD's graphics cards.
This quote.
That's a blatantly false statement.
Well,
the truth is, most of FreeSync monitors do not work. Get out. No, you're wrong.
All right. What
It's
about
not whatsoever true.
Yeah, it is hard. I mean, that was like, yeah. I mean, I would think, yeah. There's.
But yeah, he went nuts. You don't typically expect to hear CEOs talk like that.
Well, so I was there. Probably most of what people have. There was no video. There was some audio recording, which I do have. Jensen wasn't foaming at the mouth, going crazy, as some reports have said. Somebody says he's going nuts. If you've ever done an interview with Jensen, he riffs. He has fun. He has a little bit of fun. I think there's always that grain of it's below him. His competitor's always below him, right?
Yeah.
He's so driven. So it wasn't like Jensen was going nuts and we're going to go to New Hampshire. Then we're going to go. He was just simply him saying these things, half jokingly, but also half like, yeah, this is a dig,
Go to New Hampshire.
right? You know, he's just a dig at the competition. He knows he's giving them an elbow in the side, and he did it on purpose. You know, and
So he did not have his PR handler standing right over his shoulder.
there were people in there.
It's actually like super smart PR, I think, because that
Yes.
was like minutes after the keynote.
Oh,
and then,
literally minutes.
like an hour later, we had an article up about him dumping all over all this stuff.
Yeah.
So it took away from AMD's spotlight a bit.
That's what I think they were trying to do, because they said, hey, would you like to come to talk? You know, we're going to have a small get together. I said, okay. And then like, oh, it's right after AMD. Oh, really? So what happened is Mark Hochman went to go meet with Lisa Su, who was also doing a small roundtable, which I would have gone to. And the cool thing was I actually sent what he said about Radeon 7 to Mark, who was about to meet with Lisa Su, to get her response. And because people are like, how the hell did you get that response so fast? Because Mark actually asked that question, and she's like, yeah, whatever. He hasn't even seen this.
Good
So-
job.
I was very happy with the way that turned out. He was in Slack. We use Slack. He's just like, yo, Mark, check out what Jensen just said. You're about to see Lisa. Ask her this.
Yeah. So, and I also tried to get Mark Papermaster to say some mean things. AMD, they just generally, in their entire history, have never said mean things about anybody. A lot of that's that Canadian ATI thing. Canadians are so nice. But
I think she actually said in the round table that that's not her style.
yeah. So that's not their style. And, Jensen, he's going to let you know what he thinks. And again, I just want to make sure people understand. I was there. I was in the interview. I was in the front row. He wasn't foaming at the mouth. It's just Jensen being Jensen. He likes to gosh, I really like your FreeSync. You're doing stuff like that, but I'm going to fix it for you now, Gordon. You're doing a lousy job with that, but I like what you're doing. Wait, that's a backwards negative.
Taking negging to a whole new level.
So,
Yeah. What a CES. What a CES.
All right.
I know.
We should probably wrap it up.
Okay, one super
it.
quick
Do
thing.
it.
I just want to say, okay, deal alert.
Oh.
Watch out.
Sorry.
Deal
More
alert.
important.
Weep, weep. Deal alert.
So if anyone's in the market for a more budget card, until tomorrow, Newegg is having a sale on the RX 570 and ASRock Phantom Gaming X version. 8 GB card, $130 after $20 mailing rebate, and it includes 2 free games.
Dang.
You can choose between Division 2, Resident Evil 2, or Devil May Cry 5.
Resident Evil 2.
$130.
Those 570s right now are like the best thing you can buy with the current pricing and all those free game bundles.
Yeah, so it's like
Nice.
$130. So just letting you guys know.
And the big
alert.
advantage is you get free sync. You can't get that on. So clever in a way. Just a.
All right, let's go rest some more before.
Let's go rest some more. Yes. Sorry, we can't talk more. We got to go. We actually have to do some work, catch up on all the work we didn't do on CS. So, Mike, can take us out.
Actually, it's my fault. My youngest kid is getting off the bus. I left the oldest kid sitting out there one time. That was all right.
In the winter.
If I left the youngest one out there, I'm pretty sure.
No worries, no worries.
You better go do that. Yeah. So check back next week for your fix of PC Talk on the Full Nerd. For audio listeners, subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher. Send more questions and comments to the Full Nerd at PCWorld.com. Also, please leave us a review on iTunes. Every time you do, Jensen will say something mean about somebody else. Thanks for coming. I'm Gordon Unn with Brad Charkis.
Adios.
Elaine Yee.
Bye, everyone.
And Adam Patrick Murs can hit the out switch.
Watch for my CES behind the scenes video, hopefully sometime soon.
Miami Vice.
Goodbye.
Watch for my CES behind the. Oh, are we online? I shouldn't say that.